I love Christmas with its neighborhoods brightly lit in the crisp winter air, stimulating renewed hope and excitement about the future. But I have to confess that my favorite Christian holidays occur after the big popular festivals like Christmas and Easter. My favorite Christian celebration is the Ascension of Jesus, which happens after Easter, because it indicates what I believe is the authentic point of the Jesus stories. We are all capable of living a more divinely interconnected, empathetic, compassionate, justice-seeking life like Jesus. We merely need to awaken to his level of consciousness. Similarly, while the Christmas season brings with it all the happy, joy, it has little to do with Jesus and his ideas about human awakening. I love the communal celebrations of Christmas, but for spiritual growth and fulfillment, I look to Epiphany, which closes the 12 days of Christmas, at least in the Western Church, every January 6th. Now, traditionally, Epiphany celebrates the visit of the Magi, scientist-philosophers from Persia. The Gospel of Matthew records that they showered Jesus with gold, frankincense, and myrrh, rare and exotic items for a rare and exotic event. The story has many layers, but essentially it acts as a spiritual notice to the new world, saying, hey, a new way of thinking about and being human has arrived. It's the way of unity, knowledge of oneness with all things, cooperation, peace, and all-encompassing, unconditional, sacrificial, and selfless love. So pay attention. Interpreted spiritually, the parable is an origin story about a master teacher of non-dual consciousness who awakens his students to an entirely new way of living by helping them understand we are all part of the same conscious entity, God. I love Epiphany because it celebrates what I have long believed is the reality of being. We are all one massive God consciousness manifesting in infinite material varieties. The conscious realization of that oneness within each individual's uniqueness is Jesus' key to a world of compassion, peace, equity, and progress. Basically, Jesus says that if we see everyone as God, I mean see them, not look past them, then we'll treat each other with the reverence we too often only reserve for God. The concept is simple to learn, but apparently difficult to master. But when we do learn to see everyone as equally beloved of God, it becomes impossible for us to be greedy or selfish or mean-spirited. Even to that person you're thinking of right now that you cannot imagine embodies any aspect of God's love. Love that person anyway. Jesus wants his students to embody his understanding of the wholeness of being. To do so requires us to take a more mystical and less maybe orthodox approach to Jesus than mainline Christianity. When our approach to Jesus and Christianity is less literal and more mystical, we begin to understand Jesus beyond the ancient and really contemporary world's mythology. And instead we peer into the spirituality of his earliest followers, a spirituality that it turns out is remarkably similar to that of progressive Christians like us and the ever-increasing number of sojourners who identify as spiritual but not religious. At some point on our Christian journey, if we're doing the continual, necessary, and challenging work of questioning everything we believe, we will understand Jesus as an awakened being who is fully aware that he is God in the flesh. We will find the permission to think beyond the boundaries of the Bible and the orthodoxy because we will know. It's that intimate knowing that compels Jesus to teach his students how to recognize we too are God-bearers, equally capable of seemingly impossible reality-changing acts. Jesus doesn't spend his time telling the disciples to worship him. Instead, he continuously models loving action, healing the sick, producing an abundance of food, and talking about spirituality in a way that would make most modern quantum physicists comfortable, but merely confused his contemporaries, and really continues to confuse his 21st century followers. Jesus is an awakened being who can see through the dimensional veils of the multiverse. The miracles he performs are not magic tricks. They're the acts of a being who understands that reality is a matter of perspective. Jesus, not because he was pure or was some born of a virgin, but because channeling love to each other is the way the universe is designed, shows us how to feed the multitudes, how to heal the sick, care for the poor, and house the homeless. And it doesn't take magic powers. It just takes the heart, consciousness, selflessness, and dedication of Jesus. In the Gospel of John, Jesus reminds his students that the things they see him doing are done through him by God. All I'm doing is tuning in, Jesus says, and I'm going to show you how to do it too. So follow me. In John chapter 14, verses 9 to 14, Jesus is reported to have said, "Don't you know me, Philip, even after I have been with you all this time? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, 'Show us the Father'? Don't you believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words I have spoken to you, I don't speak on my own. The Father who dwells in me does this work." Trust me when I say that I am in the Father and the Father is in me, or at least believe on account of the works themselves. I assure you that whoever believes in me will do the works that I do. They will do even greater works than these because I am going to the Father. I'll do whatever you ask for in my name so that the Father can be glorified in the Son. When you ask me for anything in my name, I will do it. Well, most Christians solely focus on the last line of this passage, "I'll do whatever you ask in my name." And then, of course, they're devastated when their prayers aren't answered. And clergy exacerbate the matter by telling people that, well, your prayers aren't being answered because you're just not praying hard enough or your faith isn't deep enough. Because what someone who's praying fervently to God for relief from suffering needs to hear is "ye of little faith." Jesus is not a wish-granting genie, and he doesn't intend for God's grace to be used for selfish purposes. We are not to pray for our material well-being, but for the spiritual wellness and awakening, for the epiphany of the entire world. Following Jesus is hard work. Most of us will spend an entire lifetime trying to be sincere followers of Jesus, but still fall short. But we must remember, especially when we feel like everything is lost, that we are one with God and each other. We can pull strength and encouragement from each other all the time simply by praying and meditating and consciously tuning in to God's eternal love frequency. Paul writes to the quarreling early Christians in Corinth, reminding them that everyone has spiritual gifts, none more special than the others. But the disciples never understood that either, constantly jockeying for position as they were. And modern religion hasn't fared much better. Jesus was painfully familiar with this type of bureaucratic caste system religion. As an alternative, he provides his students, people willing to learn rather than people who think they know it all, with a virtual smorgasbord of ways to practice becoming more like him, more patient, more understanding, forgiving, compassionate, and communal, and primarily concerned with overturning the wicked, devious ways of the world. We transform into the Jesus-like, awakened, love-filled being when we've learned to tune into God as profoundly and discovered the courage to stand against the oppressors as innately as Jesus. Our epiphanies occur every day when we're consciously trying to follow Jesus to new discoveries. I encourage everyone to explore as many religions and spiritualities as you can. Talk to people who think and believe differently than you to learn from them, not to dispute or to debate, to learn. And through learning, to know, appreciate, and perhaps even love. Jesus is all about gnosis, knowledge, learning new, more profound ways to be with each other through God's communal love. The real gift of the Magi is their revelation that there is no epiphany without exploration. Exploring is how humans learn and how God evolves. So explore, nurture, awaken. You're doing it not merely for you, not even for God, but as God. Amen. Our question to consider today is, what is your spiritual notice to yourself or to the world. What are you putting yourself on spiritual notice about? Or maybe you want to give a spiritual notice to the world as well. Let's go into breakout rooms for a few moments to discuss.